Welcome to Upfront, where we will have your questions answered. Today, MLA Drew Barnes from Cypress Medicine Hat will be joining us, where we will be talking about the carbon tax, XL Keystone Pipeline, and the healthcare system. It all starts right now. Back in 2015, he was elected into his second term as MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat. Drew Barnes is joining me. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Leanne, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
All right, so looking back into your 4 years in provincial politics, what has been one of your, what have you been most proud of?
I'm very, very grateful to be the representative for Cypress Medicine Hat. I'm proud of a lot of things. I think maybe most is in that time period, we worked really hard at getting out and talking to constituents, at ensuring that their ideas are heard, their problems are heard with the provincial government. Really their ideas are what's important. We've had the opportunity to hear a lot about what they think will make the province stronger for them, their families, and their communities. Secondly, I've had some interesting portfolios in a critic position. I've just finished as health critic. I am now energy critic. Of course, energy is the lifeblood of Alberta. In the past, I've been infrastructure and transportation critic. I was even finance critic for a short time. That's given me a real opportunity to see how the Alberta government takes $51 billion of our tax money and how they spend that.
So you've really been able to have your fingers in everything.
Yes, I've had an opportunity to see how government works. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of opportunity to see what's broken. And I've heard from many, many Albertans, many Cypress Medicine Hatters as to their ideas to make communities stronger, to make families stronger, to increase fairness and equity, and to increase choice so we can have programs as good as possible.
All right, so you've been in provincial politics for some time now. What inspired you to get into it?
Well, I'm very, very grateful to be the representative for Cypress Medicine Hat. And I think the main thing was a desire to have a strong family, a strong community, strong opportunity for Albertans so they could achieve economic success, they could achieve successes through things they wanted to pursue. At the time, in 2011, when I started, it was fairly clear that our government of about 40 years at that point had lost the ability to listen, had become entitled and big, and I always think of the Cypress flood. It was a 1 in a 350 year event. It hit so quickly, some families incredibly had to even swim for it. And this government was unable to provide responsive and full care to them. And it was just clear that it was time for a change, and I hope and believe that in opposition and in my just over 4 years, I've been able to help make those things better.
All right, so what is it with Wildrose that is it the platform that inspires you so much? Yeah,
it's the people and the platform and the policies. People, everyday Albertans from many walks of life who believe in strong families, strong communities, and local decision making. Our policies all center around smaller government, local decision making, equity and fairness between the public sector and the private sector, so all Albertans have a chance to do well. And then choice in healthcare, education, choice in how our services are delivered, which of course will lead to innovation and lead to a stronger province. When I first started in the Wildrose too, Leanne, we were strong advocates for making the system different. Recall, if an MLA or even a premier wasn't listening or doing what Albertans wanted. Free votes is maybe the biggest. We are huge on free votes, meaning I can always vote the way that I think is best for Cypress Medicine Hat, rather than the party line or the party whip, and that's an important tool. I mean, it's nice to have your voice heard.
Absolutely. All right, so we have reached out to the community to get some questions. You're in the hot seat, so we're going to get right to those questions.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so it has been very controversial since the carbon tax has been introduced here in Alberta. So people in our community want to know, what is your stance on the carbon tax?
I'm against the carbon tax. When the Wildrose in power, I would eliminate the carbon tax. And for the main reason is Alberta is the most environmentally friendly jurisdiction in the whole world. We are great, environmentally friendly producers of electricity, of oil, of many things. All as this carbon tax does, first and foremost, is force the production of oil and gas and other carbon products to jurisdictions that aren't as environmentally as good. We're actually going to do harm to our environment by not letting a good producer like Alberta produce our share and share our technology so others can become better. Plus, Leanne, the timing. Our economy has been hit hard the last 2.5 years as oil prices went from 100, 120 down to 50 now. And a lot of families, it's been hard to adjust to the new reality. And so here we are tacking on hundreds of dollars of costs to them. And my office has been flooded with transportation bills showing the increase added. Everything in rural Alberta is trucked in or railed in, and all that cost will be added to the consumer at a time when jobs are tough. That is another problem. Yeah, so clearly I'm against the carbon tax, I think that especially now with America being very much against it as well, we have to do things in conjunction with our trading partners, and this is not the right time.
Okay. Do you think even with the carbon tax rebate that it's still not going to help those who have it?
It's not near enough for our lower income people who temporarily need a hand up or whatever. $400 for an individual, I think it's $760 approximately for a couple, and then goes up a little bit with up to 4 children. My guesses are it's going to be $2,000, $2,500 per year per person. And again, that is from the trucking bills that have been sent to my office. Everything we get in Cypress Medicine Hat and Medicine Hat is trucked or trained in here, whether it's food or lumber or clothing. And that has to be added to the cost by the retailer, by the seller, or they can't stay in business either. And now we have the government running around and giving some respite to the odd industry here and there and to lower income people. But at the end of the day, it's a big inefficient transfer of money.
All right. Well, there you have it on the carbon tax. Okay. Well, after the break, we're going to be talking about the XL Keystone Pipeline. So we have that and lots more coming up after this. Welcome back to Upfront. We are here with MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, Drew Barnes. Now, before the break, we were talking about the carbon tax, but I have another question from a Medicine Hat college student. With the approval of the XL Keystone Pipeline, how is this going to impact us locally?
Oh, I think it'll be good for us. It'll give our commodity, our oil, more opportunity to get to where it can be refined, to get to where there's a bigger market. Access to markets is what this is all about, so we can get fair dollar for our commodities. The problem with the Keystone and the problem with America being our only trading partner is quite often they pay us a reduction because they are our only trading partner. In the past it was even called the bitumen bubble. So this is important. It will help create jobs, but Leanne, we can't lose sight of first of all, Energy East, which is a pipeline to New Brunswick, all in Canada, where it provides, I think it'll be 30,000 Canadian jobs to build. I think it's 3,000 Canadian jobs annually to maintain and make sure it happens. And it'll give us a chance to upgrade and refine our product right here in Canada. So Energy East is another one that we need to go to where we can use our own product. Pipelines to the West Coast are crucial. We need to get access to the Asian market where we can sell our commodity for full world value, again, which the Americans don't often do. And I guess one of the concerns with it, a lot of Albertans aren't aware that the new Trans Mountain pipeline that just got approved through British Columbia to Burnaby actually has Kinder Morgan paying the province of BC $25 to $50 million a year. First time ever, I understand that one region will be paying another region to have the economic shipment of goods across their territory. This could be a real game changer for the Confederation of Canada. Let's watch and see what happens. But again, I'm pipelines. I'm stand behind pipelines.
So a positive. We're going in the right direction.
We're going in the right direction. Our oil and gas people, our people that supply capital, people that supply expertise are so good at getting it out of the ground safely and environmentally friendly. And this is an opportunity for them to do more of that and create more wealth.
All right. Another question that we had was, what is the temperature in the province right now? I know that we've had some economic struggles in the last couple of years. Are we moving in the right direction? Are we having more jobs created? What's going on?
Well, thank goodness Albertans are as intelligent and resourceful as they are. I think we're starting to come out of it a bit, even though it appears that oil is stabilized around 51 or 53, a far cry from the $100 it was. Some of that is a price adjustment as people get used to the new price. A lot of it is people going back and changing industries, opening businesses. But let's not forget though that there's still a lot of fellow Albertans that are still struggling, still not back on their feet from incomes or jobs they had before. So we need our economy to be as strong as possible with as many opportunities as possible so these people can build wealth for their families, their communities, and options for themselves. And that's back to where the pipelines are important. That's back to where the right governance for the province is important as well.
All right, so for somebody who was really hit hard from the economy, what can they do now? I mean, is there something that the province is going to be doing for those, that are out of the jobs?
Well, the province has come up with some investor tax credits. I certainly hope that some of those will work. They did come forward with some petrochemical royalty transfer credits, and that just ended up being two big projects in the Edmonton area, which surprised me because in Medicine Hat we have the highest unemployment and we have the lowest incomes, unfortunately, right now in the whole province. And so I thought that money would have been better directed here, but it wasn't. That was their decision. I believe strongly in Albertans' willingness to help their fellow Albertan, to work hard in their communities, and I just think as our oil and gas business gets used to the new normal pricing, that things will start to happen, and hopefully will restore some confidence.
All right. Okay, so another question that we had, Brian Jean has announced that he is open to the idea of merging with the Conservatives. So from social media, why would the official opposition feel the need to merge with the PC party that has lost a lot of momentum and political positioning in the province?
Yeah, very good question. I hear that a lot. There is people on both sides of it though, and that's one of the interesting things. A lot of people that have worked hard for the Wildrose with us and share our vision of smaller government, more local decision making, more equity and fairness, want to just continue and work hard and ensure that we have the opportunity to get our ideas heard come next election in about 2 years. There are many people on the other side though that are conservative, believe in again a government that is the right size, but they are concerned about vote splitting. They are concerned about the NDP being re-elected. They're not happy with the big overreach of this government. They're not happy with the huge $11 billion deficits and the $60 billion in debt this government's going to have in 3 years. So they're thinking the best way to make sure that the NDP doesn't get back in is to get the parties together so we have less vote splitting. I guess at this point I'll say I'm grateful that Brian has started the discussion, and anytime we're bringing Albertans together to discuss ideas, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to hear a lot of smart ideas.
All right, so are you open to a merge?
I'm open to talking about it. I try very, very hard to listen to my constituents and hear the direction that they would like to go. So if we're someday with a party that believes in the things that Wildrose believes in, and has the people that are everyday Albertans that like the independence and the resolve that comes from conservative values, I will absolutely be talking to them about it.
All right. So would you run for leadership of a united party, whether it be Wildrose, Conservative, unnamed party, whatever it may be?
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for that question. I ran for leader a couple of years ago, and it was a gratifying experience. It was a good experience. I really enjoyed it. I've had other people reach out and ask me, and a little too early for me to say at this point, but again, I'm just grateful that many conservative Albertans, working people, politicians, everyday people, are wanting to have this conversation and are putting ideas forward. And at some point in time that some leadership will have to come that will ensure that we end up with that Alberta opportunity where we have jobs and our communities and families can be stronger.
All right. Okay, well, we have lots more to come on Upfront right after this. Welcome back to Up Front. We're here with MLA Drew Barnes. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks, Leanne. It's great to be here.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit here over to healthcare. One question that we got was on social media: what is the province doing about wait times for specialists, and why are we being referred out of province for shorter wait times?
Yeah, there's far too much of that going on. And just to further set the scenario, healthcare now in Alberta is $21.5 billion a year. The cost has gone up sharply for several years now. And unfortunately, in many of the matrices or measurements, we have slipped towards the bottom of the pack in Canada in terms of getting in for transplants, getting in for important surgeries. And that's a real problem. So I think that in the Wildrose we had a wait time guarantee, and I think that can be a huge element of going forward. And the long and the short of it is, if you have an important medical procedure and you cannot get in to see a doctor in the normal period of time, whatever the Canadian Wait Time Alliance says should be for the standard wait time, the government should pay for you to go to a different jurisdiction or a different provider, and then you can get that important service within the proper time period. All as I believe that would happen if we did that is our good people. We've got great frontline workers here in Alberta, nurses and doctors and other people in the health system. All as would happen is would give them incentive to make things move a little faster, and that alone would do the difference. The other thing, Leanne, I think we need to look at, in addition to some kind of matrices that are based on more activity, is we have to have access to more different kinds of health professionals, other allied health professionals in the system. A lot of mental health workers, a lot of physiotherapists, dietitians, and we have a lot of these people that are great people that can provide good service, but at times it's hard to get access to them. So I think we have to come up with a way that would make that easier. I just finished my time as health critic, and one of the last things that we did do at the Wildrose AGM in October, our members passed a motion that basically we want to look at working with all the allied health professionals, and we want patients to have one access point into the health system, more of a primary care situation, and I believe that could lead to some long-term savings, and I believe that could lead to Albertans getting access to the right health professional a lot more often on a timely basis. Because as we all know, especially with healthcare, if you don't get in time, the problem can be devastating.
Absolutely. So now, has the NDP government made any commitments to help improve this as well?
Well, I guess where the NDP's at is they're saying, I think I hear most from them, is they're trying to bend the cost curve, meaning instead of health care spending going up at 6.5% a year, they're trying to have it go up at 4.5% a year. One of my favorite things, questioning the health minister in question period, was we're already in healthcare, we're already like $200 million over budget. And so you can say one thing, but in reality, if you're $200 million over budget, you're not accomplishing what you're setting out to be. And I think again, we have to engage as many allied health professionals as we can. We have to make sure that there's a competitive market mechanism for people to get care on a timely basis. And I think that'll lead to exactly that, where people will be happier with their care. We'll be able to spend a little bit less money, so that will give us more money for more frontline workers, for more services, and it's easily 42% of the healthcare budget right now. So it's important to get it right.
All right, and do you think that we can attract some maybe physicians to some of the smaller communities as well, so people aren't traveling to the larger centers to see these specialists?
Yeah, really good question. Edmonton and Calgary actually have, I think, a little bit of an oversupply of doctors, and just about all the rest of Alberta is short. So I think if we had more local decision making, instead of one big centralized Alberta Health Services, even if we had 3 regions, Edmonton 1, Calgary 1, the rest of Alberta is 1, and gave them true autonomy, gave them true decision making, that would lead to those experts, those people on the front lines, having the ability to match the resources with what's needed, and that would lead to better service, that would lead to higher care. There's I think it makes sense that some key areas are centralized. some serious degrees of cancer and heart, yeah, maybe we need to have all those resources together. But there's so many other areas where if we can get all Albertans pulling in the same direction, and somebody locally with the expertise and the availability and the opportunity rather to do it, I think that would go a long way.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go into another direction here from
Okay.
another question from social media about the maintenance enforcement program. So if you don't know what the maintenance enforcement program, it is for those who are paying child support or receiving child support, spousal support, or those kinds of things. You had comment there that you've heard concerns about the program, and it may need some help.
It needs some help. It's one of the most common concerns in my constituency office, to be frank. And it's interesting. Albertans want to take responsibility for their families. They want to take responsibility for their situation. That is one of the strengths of Albertans. But one of the things that's happened, especially with the economy changing, is jobs have changed, incomes have changed. And many Albertans aren't able to get a mechanism, get back into where they can have an arrangement where temporarily, short time, or even a reflection of their new circumstances can be reflected in the circumstances they pay or whatever. And so to me, it's a system at this point in time that appears to be quite bureaucratic, very slow, and not listening to the responsive changes that are needed when somebody's circumstances changed. So I mean, I think it's important to have people still keep responsibility for their situations. It's responsible that they though have the opportunity to stay working and to pay for their families and to pay for their living costs. And I think that the government of Alberta needs to overhaul that situation.
All right, so what do you think that, do you think that the program still needs to be in place, that it needs to be there, it just needs to maybe be enhanced a little bit, just changed, or?
It needs to be enhanced quite a bit, I think. I think we need to have some activity-based measurements to ensure that people are flowing through the system quickly. You know, not bureaucracy and bottlenecks everywhere. Not 100% sure of this, but I've heard many times about how we're short of judges in a few different circumstances. Perhaps one of the things the Alberta government has to do is make sure that we're meeting our mandate to make sure there's enough judges to hear the cases that can't be worked out direct on a more timely basis. I just know from my constituency office, I just know from my constituents that this is broken. There's too many people out there that want to do the right thing, and that's take care of their responsibilities. But because of the economy, because of a circumstance changed, it's causing too much hardship on everybody. A reason we need to change it.
All right. So, in closing, what do you see for the vision of Alberta?
Okay. Yeah, I've had a lot of chance to talk to Albertans about this the last 4 years. And to me, it's about the opportunity that can be provided here in Alberta. It's about the opportunity to make a living, to have a strong family, community, take care of your fellow Albertan. What I've seen in my time in government is I've seen government get bigger and bigger and bigger and more distant, especially from communities outside the corridor. And I think what we need to do is a situation where we need to put in certainty, we need to control our spending so we attract investment again, but then we need to ensure that our charitable sector, our community sector is strong. So when people need a temporary hand up, when people need some support, when there's an opportunity for good community people to fill a void and help their neighbors, I think we need a stronger community and a charitable sector for that to happen and to make that happen. And I would very much like, when the Wildrose is in government, I would absolutely promote that we make sure that communities have the opportunity to work together and help each other out.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Drew, that is all the time that we have for today's show, and I really appreciate you being here today.
Leanne, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on